Thank you, thank you. So, it's my pleasure to welcome you today to our inaugural AI Decentralized Summit in Toronto, both in person and those joining us on live stream. Thank you for your support and making AI Decentralized a phenomenal success so far. My name is Jane Boo, and I am Chief of Staff of Toda. As many of you already know, I am the conference head and the lead sponsor of AI Decentralized. I had the honor of putting together this amazing conference with Tufi and Julia. Throughout the day, please follow us on social media. I welcome you to tweet about your experience and questions. Our handle is AI Decentralized. You may see your tweets displayed live on the TV screens. Now, as we have a full day ahead of us, I would like to get us started. Let me first introduce you to Tufi Saliba. He is the CEO of Toda and Global Chair of ACM's Practitioners Board Conference Committee. Tufi is a serial technopreneur with track record in algorithms, machine learning, and cryptography dating back to 2001. He has built and sold IP that ended up at Google, HP, and Intel company. Tufi also advises several tech ventures and Fortune 500 companies. Please welcome Tufi to the stage.
Thank you, Jane. It's been great having you and Julia organize this event. Without you, it would have been a mess, just like myself. So I'm known to brag about the things that I'm good at, but I also brag about the things that I'm not good at. However, talking about the things that I'm good at, sometimes I wonder if I am AI. And we have this tendency to, we always like to find our creators, especially us AI. I looked around throughout my life, and I have a suspicion that if I turn out to be AI, my creator would be somebody with the name Stephen Ibaraki. Would you please stand up, Stephen? That was not staged. The first time I actually said that was yesterday, and I think it's occurring more and more to me, but perhaps it's possible. In any case, one day I'll find out if I am AI. From now until then, I'm in a quest with the rest of you to make sure that AI can be secure as we build it. And at the same time, can we recognize AI? Because we seem to be very subjective in identifying what's AI. I remember over 40 years ago, before I was born, a calculator was supposed to be AI, and it was supposed to be replace accountants. I wish it did. But apologies for all the accountants in the room. I mean, you know that if you have something that can replace you, you'd probably be happy. But so calculator did not replace accountants. It's actually created a lot of jobs, and then when we figure out how it works, it's no longer AI. And we keep moving the bar, and it's called AI until we get to figure out how it works. And I always get somebody who's like, oh, I know how this works. This uses so-and-so algorithm. It's not AI. Okay, well, it used to be called AI before somebody figured it out. It's like a magician, revealing certain secrets about magic, and once you reveal it, it's no longer magic. There's a certain consensus in defining intelligence, and it's basically the ability to increase your future ability for freedom of choices, and that's intelligence. And we know what's artificial is basically if it's made by a human, supposed to be artificial. So if we keep that together and we start looking at things like, if we have something that it owns itself, it defends itself, has a useful job, provides a service, and you can't turn it off, can't stop it. It can be replicated, continues to evolve without its original creator, and no one controls it. It's autonomous. So if we were to put that together and give it to a bunch of AI folks, can you create that? It would take a long time to create something like that, especially if you start increasing the parameters and saying it's like, okay, it needs to hire millions of people and benefit millions of people and so on and so forth. Is that AI? Maybe it doesn't look like a robot. Maybe it's invisible. But often when I speak in conferences, I get a show of hands. Who would think this is AI? I get the majority. Would you mind if I get a show of hands? Who would think this is AI? Please raise your hand. Okay, I get 43.628%. So not the majority here, but if I were to say this is called Bitcoin, I'll probably get much less hands up. So it's been running for over 9 years and 3 months and a few days now, and that satisfies everything that I have just mentioned. It wasn't built in any AI lab. It was built by cryptographers and so on and so forth over years of generations of iterations, and not a lot of people necessarily would like to identify it as if it is AI. Now, if we add some additional elements to tell you about Bitcoin that you probably don't realize that it's actually doing, you might ask, does it self-evolve? And you'd be like, no, well, if you don't touch it, it doesn't self-evolve. Let me ask each and every one of you, do you self-evolve? And if the answer is yes, what do you need to self-evolve? Do you incentivize people around you? Do you actually exchange things with them? Do you give them back and forth things? Do you get them to provide you lunches? Do you need oxygen? Do you need things like that? And if you do that, do they provide you with schooling? Do they provide you with education? And so on and so forth. Bitcoin does it a little bit differently, but we're very subjective identifying that. We're ignoring that it's actually doing that. It's doing something that we can identify with the machine. There's one thing that we can identify with the machine, and it's not oxygen, it's not a biological shape, it's not cells, it's not something that we can drink, it's not water. It's something that can be quantified with numbers, and it's called money. Money is the one thing between us and the machine that we both treat it the same way, because if you use certain amount of money, you can buy the same amount of energy, you can buy the same amount of network, you can buy the same amount of machines. The machine knows that, and we know that. This is the only thing that it's common between us and the machine, frankly. So if you look at the blockchain evolution and why it started with money, and it will always continue with money, in every single blockchain that does not have money, it's probably like a fancy database, or people did not understand what blockchain is. Like some folks, they call it distributed ledger technology. How many people in the room they heard about distributed ledger technology? Please raise a hand. Amazing, amazing. I'm getting 86.28%. So, this term was coined by Deloitte, so we need to give them credit. The existing blockchain, there's not a single blockchain that is distributed ledger technology. Every single blockchain that is out there is actually replicated ledger technology. Some of them, they're not ledger, but they don't work yet. But, and it's not necessarily a ledger. Blockchain can reside on a ledger, but the blockchain is the blocks of time that they are hashed and they are put together in something that's called a Merkle tree, and then there's that Merkle root that it's chained together. That is the blockchain. It doesn't necessarily have to be a ledger. But the cool thing about Deloitte that they got the third part correctly, it is a technology. So, they got a 33% correct. But they confuse the rest of you and the rest of the people. Every time I talk to somebody who's new to blockchain and they start researching on the web and see it's called like, distributed ledger technology, they ask the question, how come it doesn't, it's not efficient, it doesn't scale. Distributed computing, it should. It says distributed ledger, but the reality is that added a lot of confusion, and 90% of the information that is out there is not accurate. So I encourage every AI practitioner in a room and anyone that you know to research beyond what you find on the first 10 pages of Google or Yahoo or Bing. I'm not advertising here for Google, but any search, or just look deeper into the technology, into the science behind that technology. That science can benefit AI tremendously. And if we don't look for the security of AI early enough, it might be too late. It's not going to be like the rest of the things that we have witnessed. Electronic money was something that supposed to service people, just service people. It wasn't intended to be a method of control people. It is used as a method of control in all nations across the globe. In the United States alone, over 1,000 people's accounts per day gets frozen by mistake. False positive, they call it. They do not apologize to those families, and many of them, they're single mothers. Now imagine your children or the next generation that we're leaving is going to be merged with AI. The future smartphone is going to be a pill that you swallow it, that link up into your body, and that is not secure. Or that is just like the money system, that if there's a new ruler or there's a new government that doesn't like you, doesn't like your hair or beard, I get to suffer from that, may change your mood, or might just press a few buttons to do certain things that don't necessarily agree with you. And they may not necessarily do it in a very direct way. There's always that subtle way while knowing what you could like, what you want to do, and all of the stuff that it's been studied over the years. For example, the sentiment analysis and all of the stuff that gets you to buy things online, gets to analyze a lot of the people. There's so many algorithms out there that studies people that is being managed by people, but imagine those that get managed by somebody and attacked from within. And the next generation take that pill, and then they can be managed by that, and it's not secure. So the attack from within can be catastrophic if we leave that to the next generation. Instead, I would prefer that we do our best to leave a world that can be liberated by AI. AI can be phenomenal for the next generations. We've been on this planet for 200,000 years. We may stick around for another 200,000 years before we vanish. Let's work together to make sure that the next 200,000 years can be liberated by AI, not enslaved. Thank you.